Good morning. Welcome to A Sobriety Clean. This is step 6, and we are going to talk about spiritual principles once again. Here it goes. How am I demonstrating my commitment to recovery today? That's the first question you should ask yourself. How are you demonstrating your recovery? Did you get a sponsor? Did you go to a meeting? Did you sit in the front? So applying the spiritual principle of willingness means very simply that we are willing to act differently. It does not necessarily mean that we will act differently or even that we're capable of doing so. Okay? We can perhaps best illustrate the attitude by an example. Suppose we've been dishonest with our families, with our employees, or with our friends, in many ways ranging from minor to severe. While it may seem better to become willing in layers, focusing on our willingness on the worst or most destructive forms of dishonesty first, this step says that we're entirely ready to have all our defects removed. That means being willing never to be dishonest again, even in a minor way. This may seem like more than we can expect of ourselves, but we only have to do it for today. It's hard to have this kind of willingness, especially when the apparent consequences of mild dishonesty aren't so severe. We may be aware that we're not being extremely honest, but we think we're not hurting anyone and we're getting away with it. So why be concerned about it? But it's this kind of thinking that has perhaps the most severe spiritual consequences. It may turn out that no one is obviously harmed by our dishonesty and that no one ever finds out, but the dishonesty reverberates in our spirits from then on, even if we're not constantly aware of it. Even if we sleep just fine at night, the result of acting on a defect when we have the ability not to do is an impairment of our spiritual growth. If we continue being unwilling, we eventually paralyze our spiritual growth. First question: am I willing to have all my defects of character removed at this time? If not, why not? What have I done to show my willingness? What have you done to show your willingness? The amount of willingness we have to develop in this step requires corresponding amount of faith and trust. We have to believe that a higher power is going to work in our lives to the exact degree that's necessary. Continuing with the example of dishonesty, we have to trust that our higher power isn't going to remove the defect of dishonesty from our lives to such a degree that we become brutally honest, incapable of remaining silent even when speaking the truth would hurt someone. As long as we get out of the way so that God can work in our lives. You hear that? As long as we get out of the way so that God can work in our lives, we'll experience the exact degree of spiritual growth we need. With words like extremely and all playing such a prominent role in this step, it's easy to become overly self-critical and perfectionistic. We need to remember that even though our willingness must be complete, we're not going to become perfect. Not today, not ever. We act out on a defect against our will. We need to practice the principle of self-acceptance. Okay? We need to accept that we're still capable of doing and acting out. We're also still willing to change. With that acknowledgement, we renew our commitment to be changed. We've grown exactly as much as we're supposed to for today. In other words, keep it in today, okay? And if we're perfect, we would have no further need to grow. So those people that get clean and they think they're perfect, they won't have no further need to grow. Everybody wants to grow, okay? So remember this saying: As long as the tides bind us together, nothing can tear us apart.